Welcome to What CEOs Talk About. Do you wonder what CEOs talk about behind closed doors? How they bring their vision to reality? How do they overcome and succeed through adversity? We share that and so much more with each episode. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, everybody. My name is Martin Hunter. I am the host of What CEOs Talk About. Today, we have Celeste on the show. So, Celeste, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
A few shout outs today. I think my business partner at Urgio, Dylan, is the one that reached out to you via LinkedIn because that's kind of what you do, right? So, we'll jump into the details with that. So, shout out to Dylan. There's an episode coming out on how to prepare for, or what are the 5 things that you need to think about with a looming recession. Dylan is the chief strategy officer for Urgio. And man, oh man, that man can think. Man, we were talking about investing in tin. I was like, how'd you get to investing in tin? He's like, well, there's a shortage of chips for cars, and those cars need to have these chips. And because the chips are built by this one, and the welding is what they're having. So if you invest in tin, so he showed us the numbers in tin. I don't know if he was right or if he was wrong, but he said it with such dedication. I was like, yeah. Me and my other partner Kevin as well. We're 3 in Urgio, and we both said, "Damn, he's smart." And so listen to that episode; it'll be a good one. Celeste, can you please introduce yourself? Who are you? What do you do? And then we'll tackle the title of the show.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is Celeste Berke. I put quotations around my last name nicely because while I'm married and have a partner, I never legally took that name. It's a whole other story. Uh, so on paper, Celeste Berke Knisely, but legally Celeste Berke. So fellow Canadian here, we were reminiscing about
Booyah.
some commonalities we have there. Live stateside in Denver, Colorado. I am partner in a consulting group called TLR Consulting Group. We work with executives and teams on boosting their visibility, primarily on the LinkedIn platform. So excited to be here today to unpack what that means, how that can help you individually with your teams, and what does that look like going forward? And most importantly, why should we do it? So my
Fabulous.
background, I can tell
We
you a
are
little
going to
bit
talk.
about my background. I have 19 years of corporate experience. I know if you find me on camera, you might think, "Oh, there's no way," but I assure you, there is. There is 19 years there of corporate experience working in the hospitality field, the hospitality industry, and was in an executive
Mhm.
role overseeing sales and marketing teams coast to coast. When I lost my position as a result of the pandemic, I decided now was the time. I was 40 years old with a 1 year old at home to go all in on my own and dabble in entrepreneurship. So that's how we were here. And yes, absolutely. Dylan and I met on LinkedIn and connected that way, had some great conversation. So excited to be here today. I do juggle mommyhood as well. So that has been interesting being a female executive. I have a 3 year old at home, so she keeps me on my toes and is the boss lady around here.
Oh, I have 4 kids.
Oh,
So
oh my goodness. Why
I hear
we're a
you.
blended family here with we have a 16 and an almost 13-year old and then a 3 year old. So we juggle.
Oh, yeah. 16-year-old boy or girl?
Boy,
Okay.
he's
All right. So it gets, so, go ahead. Sorry.
He's working full time, so we don't see him as often as we do. Typically, they were here every other weekend, but now he's working at Panera. So, working the line, goes back to the days of me making $5 an hour. And these kids these days are making $16, $18 an hour. So,
I know. It's crazy. Oh, hey, you know what? Teenage boys, all you have to do is keep the fridge full. That's all you have to do. Like, usually it gets, I always tell most people when we've got a good mix. Boys are harder up front and they get a little bit easier as the age goes by. And girls, it's the opposite. Girls are just amazing. And then as they grow older, there's more neuron connectivity and collaboration. And so okay, I know I coach my daughter. She's 14 years old. She plays rugby. So we play. So I deal with a lot of young ladies, and I absolutely wouldn't trade it for the world. I'd rather coach girls than boys. Boys are
Ah.
stupid sometimes. Well, not sometimes, most of the time, but we're so single focused, and where women collaborate so well on the field and off the field. It's just amazing and fun to coach girls because they receive it, they accept it. There's no, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no I don't want to say the word comparing, there's just this collaboration of not wanting to be, oh, they all want to be good, but not, they don't want to step on somebody else's head to be better than the other person, right? It's all about collaborating and the team. So I just absolutely love coaching girls. I love coaching the boys. Don't get me wrong, boys are really good, but it's a lot easier with the girls. They pay attention.
And my
um
my apologies.
Celeste.
I'm here in Denver, which is like allergy capital, so I'm
Oh,
constant with the like my 100-year-old,
tissue.
grandmother who had the tissue in there
I
in
know,
her
right in the
in her
sleeve.
sleeve.
We just went through Cottonwood. Oh my goodness, it was awful. It was like snowing in the middle of at the end of June, anyways. Celeste, what is the title of the show? I absolutely love it.
We're talking all about why do why you do you as it relates to your business, the direction that you want to go, your North Star. So you do you as it relates to LinkedIn, your online visibility and presence, and how you operate your business.
So, Celeste, take us back a little bit. I like to provide the listeners and the watch. So, Celeste and I did not reach out to each other to say that we're going to match burnt orange and bright red together. So, whoever's watching, we didn't call each other and say, hey, you going to wear red today? So, Celeste, for the benefit of the listeners and the people who are watching, give us, where are you from, the kind of how you were brought up to define where you were. Because, like me, I didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial world, right? I grew up on the East Coast. There's fishing, and then we moved along. And it's only in my later years that I actually found out. So, give us a little bit of history of who you are, where you grew up, and all that good stuff, so it gets a better understanding for the listeners.
Sure. So, for those listeners, sitting behind me is a piece of artwork that I did in fifth grade out of chalk and glue. I actually think it's been dropped once, so it's has a little chip in it. But I keep this here as a reminder of, always having that piece of creativity. I grew up in a family of professionals. So, always pushing the envelope, what can we do? And really, this foundation that you have to put in the hard work and you have to build things. Like you,
Hmm.
I am one of four. So there are four of us, highly competitive children. All of us have a master's degree or two. Um, my mother had a PhD, taught early childhood education. My father is 77 years old, completed hopefully his last Ironman this past year. Teaches spin,
What?
teaches spin a few days a week. Runs, bikes, still is working for the most part time, part to three quarters time, and has built this business from a dream. He's an MD, and
Hmm.
so early on in life it was about, how do you push yourself? How do you challenge yourself?
Hmm.
And I carried that through in everything that I've done. If you look at my strengths assessment, competitiveness is always at the top, as is strategy. And I love being a part of a team where I can learn and listen from others, but then also push the envelope, which is probably why I didn't really fit in the corporate mold.
Hmm.
So I always remember growing up we had chin up bars, which I don't know if listeners know what
Hmm.
those are, but it's a bar that goes across your door. So every night before we'd enter, my dad would say five chin ups. And I was this little weakling that would attempt to do the chin ups. My sister was a gymnast. She could do 5 reps, no problem. So it was always about, what are you doing to, I don't want to use, the phrase better yourself, but open up your sphere of influence and add
Hmm.
in experiences. So I took that throughout life and kind of did what a lot of people do. I went this route of you go to college, you have a relationship, you go on to the next relationship, maybe you get an advanced degree and you work in a job, you rise to the top. And then what? We look forward to retirement. And I realized, my cup was not full. I'm one of those individuals. I
Mhm.
didn't get married until I was almost 38 years old. So later in life, I was working on a career, but never felt satisfied. So I was always looking for what's
Mhm.
next? How do I better something? And that little squeaky wheel in the corporate that was like, hey, how do we do this? Can we change this? How do we make this a little bit better? And in
Mhm.
a lot of corporate environments, that personality isn't always accepted because this is the way that we've done things. So for me, breaking the mold, helping
Mhm.
especially females, tap into their skill set or find resources has been really the crux of who I am. So it was fun taking some time off from that corporate grind. I was traveling to really reinvent myself and say, how do I tap into this entrepreneurial spirit and create something
Mhm.
from nothing, from an idea, a vision
They
into a strategy.
People think that entrepreneurship is something that you're born into. Some people say that, oh, you've got the bug, you're an entrepreneur. You're not, no, it's phases in life. And uh, I am, for those who've listened, the episode that came out last week with AJ about writing a book, she changed my world. I'm dyslexic, and she's like, "That's I call bullshit. I call bullshit. Just because you're dyslexic doesn't mean that you can't. There's a process to writing a book." And so the book, I'm really trying hard to call it Embrace the Ox. And it comes from a gym where I CrossFit, and I couldn't climb the rope, but I was pushing through so hard the barbells. My buddy goes, "Hey, listen, why are you so focused on this thing that you used to be good at?" Because I was in the army, I could climb the rope 200 times, didn't even skip a beat. You have to embrace how you change in life, how you evolve. Some people go from entrepreneurship to a job, from a job to something else. If you had not lived the corporate world, it's important on a stage of life that you have a longer not to do list than to do list. You
Sure.
know what not to do. And if you don't
Right.
live it, how can you build a company from scratch? If you've never been part of a major corporation, you have no idea. So good on you for realizing. I mean, it's great. You had a wonderful trigger. So what was you said during the pandemic, did you get let go? Did they let you, was it a mutual agreement? Was like, what was the trigger that you said, okay, you know what? I'm done with this and I'm ready for this other thing. What was kind of the trigger?
So I think the trigger had been building. I had engaged with a coach to try to, as I was approaching, age 40,
Oh.
to figure out what am I doing. I don't necessarily align with the organization, its values, etc. I was
Mhm.
one of two women in a number of years to have a child, and just realized, what else could I be doing? So when the
Mhm.
pandemic hit, I, within a span of less than a week, had to lay off almost an entire workforce, and then received a text message inviting me to take a walk down the hall to have my position
Oh.
laid off as well. And I think that was the breaking point of realizing, I'm at a pivotal moment here of I could
Mhm.
continue doing what I've done because it's safe and I'll get a steady paycheck, or I can take this opportunity that the world is screaming at me, this is not the right fit, and do something else. And I will preface this by saying I realize I live a very privileged life. One of the skills my father taught me from a very young age was you start saving and you put away money for your retirement. So when I made
Mhm.
10.25 an hour after college in my first like professional job, I put 3% away. I put 3% away, then added more, every bonus that I got. So I had prepared for, let's say, like doomsday, right? I always knew I need to be able to
Mhm.
live for a year or two, um, and be okay with that if that was the choice I made. And I think it was the first time in my life I said, I'm not going to take the road that I continue, that is known, and I'm going to go down a
Mhm.
path that is definitely scary and rely on myself. And I will say during that time, as a lot of women go through after you have children, I've also completely transformed myself physically. So you talk about CrossFit. I've had hip surgery once. My labrum and my hip is torn in two more places. So I'm either facing surgery, but I had to reinvent myself. And over the past year, have lost 12 pounds. I'm not a big person to begin with. So 12 pounds is a lot. I've
Hmm.
completely changed up how I have exercised. I've gone live over 100 days in a row on a social media platform. My husband is an endurance athlete. So the things that you talk about of, who we were and who we are becoming, I work on that every single day. That atomic habits, 1%, what are we doing each day to be
Yeah.
1% better than the next day? I think it's kind of just all come together in my early 40s. And I'm seeing more and more people who haven't yet taken the leap. And I know a lot of your listeners, CEOs are in that place where they've taken the leap. They are out on their own. They've had to make major sacrifices in their life. So I kind of feel like maybe I'm just arriving.
There's so much to unpack in there for the listeners. I mean, number one, if you're a CEO of a major corporation or a larger corporation, you don't have to say, but you're not there yet or you're getting there and you still have the power of change in your hands. Embrace those people who are entrepreneurial, right? Listen to them. Listen to them. Just because you're the CEO, your job is to facilitate and elevate. And if somebody within your department have crazy ideas, listen to what they have to say. Be curious, engage them. Don't push them away like Celeste was pushed away. She didn't find a good attachment to the values. And why was that? Were you so regimented in your business that it's like, this is how we've done it for 1,000 years? And like, don't, if you are, because I lived and worked in Japan, and
Mhm.
Kaizen is about challenging status quo. Challenging status quo doesn't mean you have to change everything, but you're just saying, hey, is this the right thing for what we're doing currently? And you kind of have a round table around it. And if you have more votes yes than no, then you just kind of park it and say, okay, we voted, we're not going to touch this for another 6 months until we reevaluate the process. So listen to Celeste's story and say, well, are you as a CEO fixed minded? Are you so rigid in your ways, or is your company so rigid in your ways? Because you might be very flexible, but all of a sudden you've empowered a lot of people. Why are they being, a fixed mindset? That's number one. I think there's a great lesson in your story, Celeste, about what not to do. And I think the second one that I teach my kids very frequently is, we, I push my kids to put 10% away.
Ah.
So I know it sounds, but I am Scottish, so I am a bit of a petty pincher. But I always tell my kids, whenever you get money, you know, 10% of that money goes into savings all the time, and you cannot touch it until it's an emergency. And you will know when it's an emergency. You will know, right? So good on you, Celeste, for doing that. And the last one, I think, in regards to being privileged, I talked about this in one of the previous episodes. How do you use what you've been given, you know, to be able to open doors for others? And the word entrepreneur means French for entreprendre, means to take on. And I think that when the light is shown, you've demonstrated a good opportunity to say, hey, listen, this has now happened in my life. The door is open. Do I take it? I think good on you for going, yes, you know, I will step through, because it's pretty friggin' scary, right? You had a newborn, I guess she was, how old was your daughter? A year
11,
old,
yeah, 11 months old.
right? You had a supporting partner and husband from what I'm hearing, but it's like, who am I as an individual? And I think it comes kind of full circle of you do you,
Yes. And it also
right?
it also makes you realize, at that moment, losing a pretty lucrative career,
Mhm.
you have to make choices in it. And I think a lot of, CEOs are in this place as well, especially headed into potential recession or whatever we're
Mhm.
facing economically. We need to make some hard choices. And for us as a family, it was not that we lived a lavish lifestyle, but I had someone that came to
Mhm.
the house 5 days a week to watch my child, and she would coordinate with my husband if I was traveling. And that's a whole nother episode of
Mhm.
pumping and traveling and storing milk and all of that. I lived through that. But you realize what is important: food, shelter, water, the rest is, I don't need it. It's all fluff. And individuals who are running their business that way, like, we don't need all the latest and greatest bells and whistles. We need the idea, we need the audience, we need to implement, we need to figure out systems. And that's why I love LinkedIn so much. It's, really a free marketing tool, especially if we're going into a recession, that you can empower your teams to use and to tell their stories and to build that brand awareness and employee advocacy. But I think these challenging times really help us to define how to live below your means, well below your means, and figure out what's truly important. And it forces you to face those tough and difficult questions that you often have to ask yourself and or a spouse support system.
It I am pushing hard to bring craftsmanship back to the business world. And what I mean by that is, yes, am I in the business of building, scaling, and selling businesses? Absolutely. But I am in the business of doing that for crafts. And what do I mean? Is when you go to Japan, in the more old Japan, and even Europe, you go to France and you go to a bakery, and then the bakery is divided either a pâtisserie or boulangerie. The pâtisserie is they make sweets, and the boulangerie is they make bread. And you go to a bread bakery, and you look at the guy and he says, "Well, I am a baker. My father
Mhm.
was a baker, my grandfather was a baker, and my great great grandfather." Sorry, I'm making fun of French people. My mom's French, so I'm good. uh, but they have pride in the craft that they do. And you look at the trades industry, building houses, how we've lost a quality mindset. And the quality mindset is really about wealth, meaning, or a prosperous mindset. Just make a little bit, spend a little bit less than you're making, and aim for the happiness that Celeste said so well, right? So I think a lot of I love your title, you do you, meaning what's your craft? What are you really, really good at that you can share with the world? You don't have to be the top baker. You don't have to be the top bow maker or katana maker, Japanese swords. But what is it that you do well that brings you happiness that you can get paid for finding your ikigai? And that's, you do you is kind of that whole component. Um, so where did you come up with you do you? Where does that come from?
My husband and I, it just evolved from our relationship. We're one of those people that people, I'm sure others roll their eyes at. We've never argued, we've never gotten in a fight. He's very easygoing, and I think probably because he was married before and had to deal with
Happy
working
wife, happy life.
working through all that. But he's just such an easygoing person, and we definitely co-parent well, and have fallen into this place that I will tell you, he does all of the outside work and all of the cleaning, a lot of the laundry. So I have found a great partner there, and where it's really a partnership. So um we think we both arrived at this place of nothing is really a big deal besides, death, obviously. Um,
Hmm.
you know, Massive loss, those types of catastrophic things, but the small day-to-days are just nuances. So I can't pinpoint exactly where it started, but we started texting each other just why do I, and now we'll say, you do you. He is a triathlete, so he races a lot for points. He's on a team and he'll send me a message, "Hey, I'm thinking about racing this day." And I know in the summers, typically one day a weekend, he'll race for a couple hours. So I always write back, why do I? And we laugh about it. But it really, it really does,
Wow.
everybody's out there doing for others, which is great. I spend a lot of time, I think, as entrepreneurs in those first couple of years. What I'm finding, it's a lot of, I'm going to do for others, I'm going to learn, I'm going to provide resources, I'm going to provide expertise for others, in the hopes that this turns into something, or I can monetize it, it helps, build. So we practice that a lot in our lives, of just giving selflessly to others, without any thinking that something has to come back to us.
Absolutely. I think we're in the pre-show. Celeste and I were talking about an episode that I recorded last year. I think it was with Ryan Hardenmarsh. Put your mask on first. And so, how can you take care of others if you're not in a position of strength and capability? And so you think of the reason why you put on your mask on first and this is an airplane is because you want to be oxygenated to be able to help others beside you. And when they look at you, you're calm, you're composed, you got your shit together. And so it just kind of brings out the ability to be better at serving others. Because that's what I was told when I left the military. Um, Sergeant Boudelier told me, he says, "Hey, son, there's three things that are important in life. Number one, so there's profanity on the show. So number one, he says, mental and physical health. Says you have to be able to serve others as a soldier. You have to be fit, both mentally and physically. You can't do your job if you're not. Number two is family. So blood, family is thicker than blood. Whoever you include in your family, you are ready and willing to die for." And they don't have to be related. And he said number three, every fucking thing else after that. And so I think and that comes of matter of service. How can you help others if you're not truly, if you not doing you do you? Um, I think there's for the younger want to be CEOs. If you're a CEO, like a chief everything officer, because you think the title is cool and you want to become that, and you've got a great idea, listen carefully to what Celeste is saying. Okay. She didn't do it at the age of 20. She didn't do it. There is a lot of context that creates a safe environment for her to be able to do so in a way that she feels that she contributes. Don't think that you're going to become a millionaire by just having a great idea. Celeste has worked hard, put money away, went to school. So she didn't become an entrepreneur to change the world. She did some hard yards before being able to make that decision. So for all the young entrepreneurs and CEOs wannabe, there's life lessons in what Celeste is saying. So pay attention.
And I will add to that, over it's been 21 years since I left college. And I'm able to look back on my career, and there are only a few. This is really sad. There are only a few standout individuals in the management level at the CEO level. And I'll give you two examples. One, yes, I lived the life, flew on a corporate plane. That CEO couldn't even tell you what
Mhm.
my name was. I'm just another
Oh,
person
that's
to
awesome.
them. And there's companies out there absolutely that is how they operate. The CEO is not approachable, they're untouchable, they're
Mhm.
so far removed. They're a figurehead with a lot of power and people fear them. Fast forward to a couple of months ago, I met a CEO here in Denver of a $10 million company. So, decent sized company that's scaling, about to go through funding rounds. We walked a park for an hour, grabbed a cup of coffee, walked the park for an hour, talked about life, talked about the culture, talked about the people he's brought and how he works every single day to ensure that nothing changes with that culture. Completely two different, outliers. And that
Mhm.
comes from experience, but also leaning into people. And I think the CEOs today that are successful are talking about failures. They're talking about what they've lessons learned along the way, like the road signs they missed, what they've done differently. They are building in public and sharing that on social platforms and talking with others because they realize that people are the most valuable asset to them versus a number. So I think we're going to see, especially if this, the mass resignation and everybody leaving and really wanting a
Mhm.
culture fit, we are going to see that divide really take place. And like you said, for those CEOs that are up and coming, getting a mentor, investing heavily. I can't even tell you the thousands of dollars that I've spent in programs and coaching. Even if I learned, want to follow this person's advice or their
Yeah.
expertise. I'm sure you've done it as well. And you're like, well, that was a nice $1,500 spent there, but at least I learned something. Um, because
Yeah.
it isn't a 0 to 100. It's, 0 to 2, back to 1, now to 4. It's we take all these zigzag steps, and I'm in, the early part of being an entrepreneur. I just have a craft that is starting to become really prevalent in today's online digital world. And how do we build in public? How do we showcase our culture and talk about our teams, even if that team is 5 or 10 people, to gain visibility? Because it's not going away. This, being front and center. I talked to my dad about it as well, about being visible, being on podcasts. So it's this get rich quick scheme that a lot of people sell is definitely not the dream
It's
nor the reality.
timing is everything, right? The people exactly, absolutely. People tend to forget. Oh, um, what's his name? Steve Jobs got rich because, like, yes, timing was good place. 1-800 got junk. People were consuming too much, and the timing was right for that. So timing had a lot to do. Perseverance is critical as well. But most of these people have been, been working hard at it, and they didn't want to let go. I mean, I was liberated from my operational company, uh, and I talk my values all the time. I I speak at least 4 or 5 times a day. I will drop one of my 5 values: get shit done, demonstrate care, well grounded, act on data, and keep learning.
Mm.
So I will always celebrate one of those fives. I talk about those 5 values all the time. Get shit done is not about efficiency, but about quality. It's really about being useful, right? So we get paid to help people really get to they don't know how to do it. So we're not coaches, we're not mentors. We'll come in and say, okay, hey, listen, let's do it together. I'll show you how it's done. And so they want momentum. And to your point about having the conversations with the right CEO or in the right frame of mind, it's about making time. Too many times we're like some of these companies are so busy looking at making money that they forget that if you don't take time to plan, time to talk, time to be curious, time to listen, um, one thing that I have found through LinkedIn is that there's a lot of people who push out stuff but don't interact on. So they're using it as an aggressive tool where it's not a social media tool. You're out there to interact socially with that. So, y- you know, then they go, oh, well, have you seen my email? Have you seen my email? No, you're not engaging me. What you're doing is just shotgunning everything and see what sticks to the wall. Anyways, that's my that's my pet peeve.
No, and I think there's this place, LinkedIn is one of the oldest social media platforms at almost 20 years old. So it's really gone from this place, and
Mhm.
I talk about it every day, changing the mindset of LinkedIn. LinkedIn drives 80% of business to business leads. So I'll say that again. LinkedIn drives 80% of business to business leads. So if you're a CEO, no matter the size of your company, you have to have a presence and have to have visibility on a platform like LinkedIn, or you're missing out on revenue opportunities. Now it goes deeper. We peel back the onion layers as, how does that work? You don't have to be spending hours and hours upon the platform, but LinkedIn has a special relationship with Google, and that LinkedIn has the 100% Moz rating. So if someone searches your name, most
Mm.
often your LinkedIn profile is going to come up even before your company website or a page of that you're listed on the
Yeah, I've
on the
noticed
website.
that. Yeah.
So companies take note. You spend thousands of dollars on your website. You should be helping your teams build out their social presence on LinkedIn, because that's going to be the number one hit that someone sees. And I don't know about you, but I come up through the days of, like, we stalk everybody online, you look them up, you see what they're about. Like, we are we are information gatherers, so we want to know that information. So that
Hmm.
is kind of that upfront. We need to know the power of the platform just from a searchability standpoint. Everybody doesn't have to be the Justin Welch on there, like you said, like pushing out
Hmm.
information about their growth and marketing. No, it is slowly about, deciding, you do you, what you want the company to be known for.
Oh, I love it.
And how do you empower your teams who are already having water cooler talk, who are talking in Slack channels, talking about the culture, talking about something that has happened? How do you empower them to start talking about that in a social arena that brings more visibility to your company as a whole? I will drop another statistics because I think statistics, especially for CEOs, resonate. Um, it used to be 46, but I saw 50% yesterday. 50% of your social media website traffic, so all traffic coming to your website for your company, is coming as a result of LinkedIn. So again, just
Say that again.
another so
So let's
social, and I can get
repeat
you
that.
the
So yeah.
so the social media traffic that's coming to your website, your company's website, 50% is being driven from LinkedIn. And
That's
LinkedIn
crazy.
allows everybody in the company to have a place to put the website that is new, especially from a recruiting standpoint and a visibility
Hmm.
standpoint. So it's like all this low hanging fruit, this free marketing that we're not taking advantage of. It's just because everybody thinks we don't have the time. Oh, it's another platform. If we're going into a recession or on the brink of a recession, this is your number one free marketing tool. And I would encourage you as a CEO to really put that hat on, that marketing hat of how do we recruit? How do we gain visibility? Potentially we're looking to exit, right? Which is where
Hmm.
they would bring in your services of your company,
Hmm.
Martin, but we need to show everybody we are here and we have arrived. So much low hanging fruit out there. And there is a way to do it in that you can be sharing thought leadership, culture, values, 3 tips, lessons learned in my 20 years of experience, what I learned in the military, those types of
Hmm.
things that help shape who you are. People want to see the human side of you, not the sales pitch side of you. So I completely resonate with the get out of my LinkedIn news feed, and you can hide those posts as well and tell the algorithm I don't want to see this of you giving me your sales pitch or telling me about your company. We want to know about you and your team and what you're doing and what is that craft that makes you different, and how, eventually how you can help me.
I I have made it a 2022 goal. Anybody that reaches out to me through LinkedIn with a specific human ask, "Hey Martin, I was looking at your profile. I saw that you and Celeste are connected. Do you mind if we connect?" And I said, "Absolutely. I will give everybody who does not deal with a bot 30 minutes of my time.
Yep.
I will gift them 30 minutes because they have gone through the effort of finding something that is attractive to them, of me or my companies, and say, hey, listen, okay, so they've made an effort to do an outreach. Okay, how can I help? Right? I'm just over, hey, I've got this one. I see that you're top of your industry in this area. It's like you did not even look at my profile,
And
and
I
then
will give you I'll give
go
you a
ahead.
tip on those. I'll give you a tip on those for the listeners. So, an easy way to get out of the automation when you get a message, it's clearly automated, and then a week later you get a follow-up message from that
Yeah.
person, is just to reply to the first one, even if it's, 10 keystrokes that mean nothing. It gets you out of the automated because it looks like you're a response. So, you get
Oh.
taken out of that sequence. So take a moment if you want, or you can just ignore it. But people are using automation, and I think that there's a place, again, a whole nother show for automation. But what you're talking about is this human connection, where LinkedIn has also moved away from, this is my audience and I speak to
Hmm.
them. This is a community that we're
Agreed.
building. It is just yesterday someone sent me a volley and then they sent me a text, and I completely forgotten that we didn't connect. I jumped right on LinkedIn. They're both in the venture capitalist space. I put 2 people in my network together that I know, are raising capital. They're in a VC space. They probably, I don't even know any of those terms and what all that means,
That's all right. You're
but they will
going in the right
probably
way.
they'll probably hit it off. And 2 or 3 times a week, that's what users are doing. And put your CEO hat on for a second. think about it. If you're able to have a genuine connection with someone, and I'm not talking hours upon hours a week, right? Maybe 30 minutes combined a week. You have a need, you want to attract talent, start making conversations with other people, other CEOs, getting in their corner. If they are in a space, people like Martin, picking his brain on who does he know in his quote unquote Rolodex, if you're old enough
Hmm.
to know what a
To know.
Rolodex is. uh, it will come back, and I'll give you an example here. To just today, this morning, I had a phone call with someone I met on LinkedIn over a year ago. A year ago. At first, we thought about doing some work together. I couldn't really make it work with what their clients wanted. She's come back with another idea today. I will send her proposal for probably a retainer model work. That was over a year ago. Those conversations, those seeds were planted. So, but as the CEO, like you have to be the one doing that work, even if it's 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. We
Hmm.
call it, I know you said you had a little bit of a potty mouth and we swear on here. We call it toilet talk. Everybody typically goes to the toilet, and what is right there with us, like our phone for the
Yeah,
most part.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can send a few messages within that time, toilet talk, that you are on
I
there, but you
love it.
have to you have to want to do it and to break the mold, because I will tell you, one of our clients signed a 7-figure deal by reaching out to someone. It took a while, reaching out to someone on LinkedIn, got a conversation, a few more conversations. It is driving business. So, I will encourage everybody on here to just start talking. Even if you don't know what to talk about, your content, start talking about what you're building out, what your team is working on. We all want to, this is why reality TV is so amazing. We all want to see, like, what is
It's
everybody
so
doing
true.
in reality? I know it
It's
is.
it's funny because I am going through this right now, right? So team laughs at me and they go, Martin, I always tell the team, I was voted off the island. So I'm not allowed to do operational work anymore. So I don't have any client engagement the way that I used to, right? And so now I make fun because I say I'm the dancing bear, right? I'm the guy who's talking and I was so focused on our customer journey about I was worried, like, what am I going to talk about? Who am I? And again, it comes back to the book about, that, what's the topic? What am I going to talk about? But you've just nailed it. I was like, traction before vision is what I always say. It's a great EOS, entrepreneur organization,
Yeah, yeah.
system. You get the traction before you still have to define the direction that you're going with. But how will you know if you don't start getting traction before you go into a full vision session and all that good stuff? And I think I was so in my head about who am I to say, why can I not talk about what the team's doing? Like that is so powerful, Celeste. Like that really resonated with me. It is a social, I'm so self-centered, caught up, head down. What do I need to do? What do I need to do? Get shit done, get shit done, get shit done. That I realized, well, what's the team doing? Celeste, thank you so much for that. That's really puts puts a lot of context on. And
and
again,
and I
go
will
ahead.
say, for those CEOs that have a larger team, let's say you have a Slack channel, you have 40, 50 employees, pop into some of their Slack channels. If they're working remote, people are working very hard to make sure that that culture stays in place, stays intact.
Hmm.
Pop into some of your Slack channels, ask questions, ask people to share their response to the questions online. Everybody wants to know, well, what is it like to interview with your company? What can I expect? Why can't your recruiters be talking about that online instead of just posting a job? Talk about, you can expect 4 rounds of interviews. This is the reason why. Talk about that process. That is going to set you apart from your competition.
God
But if
damn,
we
that's good.
don't if we don't take a moment to like sit in on some of those conversations at the higher level, because we're
Hmm.
too busy, doing deals and looking at the financials, we are so far removed from that day to day. And the day to day is what keeps that hamster wheel going, right? It's the people that we
Yeah.
work with. It's not, I spent 2 hours looking at the P&L and meeting with investors. It is about the people and what they're going through on the day to day. So I love that, taking some time as the head of a company to get real with your employees and talk about what they're working on, struggles that you've come across. But people are voyeurs. They want to see, and staying very close to your competition. What are they not doing? How are they not showing up in a social online, and making that humanizing our social experience.
Well, I mean, social media is about that. When you think about how Facebook was created, right? So, w- for those who were at the beginning of Facebook, like I was, you're like, I wonder what, you know, Joe Roach is doing from high school. Is there a way to do it? And then you're like, oh, and why do you want to know? Because you're curious. Like voyeurism,
Mhm.
right? What is he? And then you look, he's he married Susie from, so excuse me. I think you do you is very applicable to your company. So if you're the CEO, you do you is also your company. So you do you. Don't fret about, what's out there, what do I need to do, what's the top words, what's the top hashtags, and I just you do you. You do your business, you do your team. It just I want to sink my teeth into that. That's such a
and I
that's
and
such
I will say, there are a lot of, we call them employee advocacy programs. And while I'm
mhm.
definitely a proponent of employee advocacy, signing up and spending a ton of money on an employee advocacy program that pushes out a piece of content from marketing and then all of your teams have to share it isn't doing your company any service. You're actually doing a
Mhm.
massive disservice. So I think the you do you comes in of, you know what, you're in accounting, you're in finance, I'm the CEO, this person is in, business development. You're
Mhm.
all going to have a different take on a piece of the business, your day to day. Talk about it, show it, post a video about it. And
Mhm.
those companies that are doing that and that are embracing individualism versus um, here's a piece of content that talks about Susie, who
Oh.
was our quarter two, sales winner, and now everybody posts the same thing. Um, you're just pushing your agenda on your employees. So I think if you really start to dig into LinkedIn, the companies that are doing it well, and there are a few that are doing it very well. One has an amazing case study of 6 employees who decided they were going to gamify and put their company on the map. They went to, like, skyrocketed 30,000 views because they all started talking about their day to day. This is what is happening in the company. This is what they're responsible for. This is the day in the life of. And it's almost like it's a reality show that people want to be a part of. And then are curious. And they had more website visits in like a matter of a week than they had in the whole entire year. So um, I get it that it's like still a social platform, but any CEO that wants to move the needle on their business, it it is a game changer, as well as other social platforms. But, and who knows in 5 years from now what will that look like as well. There'll be a little robot
Oh,
following us around in our houses, right? We'll all have our own like Ed TV, if you ever saw that
yeah, 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 yeah.
that
Little camera, little
movie.
floating drone that follows you
Drone,
everywhere.
yes, yes, yes.
Oh my goodness. What is one piece of reference, a book, a movie that you always fall back to? So when you're either leading, doing business, you go, this is the document, the piece of paper, the motto, the saying, the book, the movie that I always fall back to. That defines who you are.
Interest Interestingly enough, I wanna say it's a saying, but then there's the what comes after it. So it's, we always talk about the movie The Field of Dreams. If you build
Mhm.
it, they will come. But but they will not is is what I tell people. So while that's really impactful, I think a lot of individuals, and we talked about this in the beginning, fall into this mindset of if you build it, they will come. And I see this. So I I set to inspire women to take action in their life, which is why I documentary style go live every single day for about 5 minutes, talking about you cannot do one piece of action and expect the results. It does not work that way. You cannot go out and run a mile and think tomorrow you could run a marathon. Now, the David Goggins of the world's probably he can do that, but not many people can do that. So if you build it, they will not come. It's what comes after that. So I definitely love that reference. That movie, growing up was really impactful, as our planes, trains, and automobiles was also another
Mhm.
one where my family has a lot of references around that. So if you build it, they will not come.
There is a. It reminds me of the Kalidasa. She was a poet, an Indian poet from the 1600s that has ode to the dawn, which is every day well lived is a vision of hope and a memory of happiness. And I think that that is what I take from what you're saying is build it, they will come, is to say, well, how do you execute on it today? How do you build your best life today, right? And I think it comes really full circle of you do you. You do you as best as you can. Do or do not. There is no try, like the little green
Right.
guy says. Uh, that's no great, fabulous. Thank you very much, Celeste, for being on the show. I think we could have. I think we could keep on going for a long time on this.
Absolutely. And it is about these life stories we have, and I think I talk with a lot of people on a daily, on a weekly basis who think that they unfortunately like don't have anything to offer. There's nothing special about me, and we all get stuck in our head like that. There
Hmm.
is something about your story and about your journey. Even as a CEO, your employees want to hear those tough times that you went through. How did
Hmm.
you get there? What was it about X that made you overcome that? When you go to bed at night, what are your struggles? What are you thinking about? What are you worrying about? Like, the human side of running a business goes so much further than ruling by fear, and thinking basically your shit don't stink, type of reference. So we love working with companies that are forward thinking, that are pushing, the envelope, that are thinking outside of the box, as this online digital world that we live in is only going to get more complex.
Oh my
So
goodness,
how
yes.
do how do we embrace it? And also, if you're like my father, who's 77, he's still embracing it. EOS, he brought that in. But he's often asking me questions, bringing other people in. It's okay to say, I may have the experience, but I don't in this area, and I'm going to hire out for that. It doesn't show us as a sign of weakness. It shows as really a sign of strength and maturity, in order to know when you can step in and step back.
Know your craft and know the limitations of it. That's a
Know
hundred
your
percent.
craft and know your crap.
Oh,
Let's go with
I
that.
like that one. Craft or crap. Oh, that's a good title. I'm gonna put
Oh,
that.
that is a good, yeah, craft or crap.
Well, Celeste, thank you very much for being on the show. It was wonderful talking to you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to listening in more, and helping in any way that I can. And obviously, my calendar's open, just like yours is, for connecting with individuals.
All of us Celeste contact details will be in below, but I guess not. But and as a LinkedIn expert, I think you can find her on
Yes,
LinkedIn.
yes, definitely. Well, thank you so
Fabulous.
much. I appreciate your time. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. With that being said, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. My name is Martin Hunter. I am the host of What CEOs Talk About, where we translate a vision into frontline operations. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to What CEOs Talk About. Make sure to click subscribe to get notified about future episodes, or check us out at www.whatceostalkabout.com.